Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. Today is the 24th of June 2025. These are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the latest as far as the Israel-Iran conflict is concerned. Ceasefire, no ceasefire, violation of ceasefire or non-violation of ceasefire. These are questions that the world is asking both Iran and Israel, because of course, as we all know, as we've been told by US President Donald Trump, that both Iran and Israel had agreed to a ceasefire. Despite that, there were violations of the ceasefire from both the sides, and that was reiterated by Trump as well, particularly from the Israeli side, and Trump was extremely unhappy with that. He also highlighted that in his different tweets on Truth Social, on his website, as well as on X. He highlighted that as well. Also, the fact is that the Israeli Defense Minister says he has ordered intense strikes on Tehran, accusing Iran of violating the truce brokered by the US and Qatar, whereas it was Israel as well that broke that truce. Iran, of course, fired a salvo of missiles at US military base in Qatar. We haven't talked about it, but they did on Monday in retaliation for the attacks on its nuclear sites a day earlier. Iran says more than 400 people, including 13 children, have been killed. At least 300,056 people have been injured in the 12 days of this conflict with Iran. And this is what Trump also reiterated: 12 days of Iran-Israel war is now ending because of a ceasefire. How long will the ceasefire retain itself is the big question mark, and we'll ask our panelists that in our first segment. Our second story pertains to the Indus Water Treaty and India's water terrorism. The United Nations has underscored the sharing of natural resources under mutually agreed treaties. This has been said by the United Nations spokesperson yesterday while commenting on a senior Indian minister's threat that New Delhi will never restore the Indus Water Treaty with Pakistan. This water terrorism that India has been alluding towards and of course threatening Pakistan with since the false flag operation in Pahalgam is no secret to the world. But what needs to be done now? Will it be diplomacy that will work wonders? Will it be some other methodology that will work for India? Because the fact remains that India has always had designs to malign Pakistan, to destabilize Pakistan directly and indirectly, and what better than to use water as a perfect tool. Also, Bangladesh is also becoming one of the victims of Indian water terrorism, because that is also what they are hinting towards. This will be highlighted in our second segment. So let's begin our show today with the first story that pertains to the 12 days of war or conflict, where however so you might put it, between Israel and Iran, that seems to have come to an end because of the ceasefire that has been mutually agreed by both Israel and Iran. This has been claimed by US President Donald Trump. We've been joined by three very eminent analysts from different fields to talk more about that. On my very right is a guest who comes to my show after a very long hiatus. He is none other than Ambassador Saeed Khalid. He is also a foreign affairs analyst. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. We've also been joined by Khalid Taimur Akram Saab, one of the most pertinent voices when it comes to the South Asian region and Central Asian region. Thank you very much, Khalid Taimur Saab, international relations expert, to have joined us. Finally, Sayyid Almas Haider Naqvi Saab, foreign affairs expert, who has also agreed to come to our show and come in the studios. Thank you very much, Almas, to have also joined us. I'll begin with you, Ambassador Saab. President Donald Trump says Iran and Israel have both violated the ceasefire, but he was really unhappy with Israel. He specifically quotes Israel. He calls on Israel to stop the dropping bombs and bring your pilots home now, quote unquote. Whereas the Israeli defense minister says he has ordered intense strikes on Tehran, following which he says is Iran violating the truce brokered by the US and Qatar. Iran has of course denied these claims, and its top security body warns that its forces stand ready to respond decisively to any Israeli violations. A lot has been going on in these 12 days. We've seen a lot of deaths, a lot of destruction in this, specifically when it comes to Iran, but Iran also retaliated, and we've seen the way I think the Israelis have never seen this retaliation from any country whatsoever. What's going to happen now? Whose side is history going to take?
Well, first of all, it is a very positive development that a ceasefire has been agreed to by the two parties, and of course by the US also, which had taken a very unprecedented action although for one day only,
Hmm.
but I think that was a kind of move which probably decided the further course of events. So it is a very good development for the people of two countries. It is a good development for the people everywhere. Peace is good. Peace is good for business. Peace is good for life. War brings end to lives and it creates so many other problems. And not to forget that had the war continued with the dangers which were lurking, like closure of the Strait of Hormuz, like petrol prices going up. Now that would affect everybody on every continent. So that's another a positive development from that angle. So I am myself very happy, relaxed that this has come to an end. Maybe there are hiccups in the ceasefire.
But the whole question is how long this is going to last, because that is also something that Israel can't be, trusted with as far as any kind of ceasefire is concerned. We've seen what has happened in Gaza as far as that is concerned. Khalid Taimur Akram Saab, Donald Trump calls Israel's Prime Minister, asks him not to attack Iran, but Netanyahu tells Trump, according to an Axios report, that he was unable to cancel the attack and it was needed, quote unquote, because Iran had violated the ceasefire. This has been stated by a reporter from the site Axios. But he says the attack is going to be scaled back and will not hit a large number of targets, but only one target this time. How do you view this development? Do you see a certain friction between the US and Israel? Is this friction going to undermine the relationship between the two countries, or the US allowing Israel a free hand in the future?
Yes, of course, we have been seeing since last almost 2 years that both the parties, both the political parties in US, they have been blackmailed by Israel, because in US, all the big businesses are being controlled by the Jewish lobby, and they have a very strong hold over the US politics. And we have seen the Israeli Prime Minister not listening to President Donald Trump in the case of Gaza also, because President Donald Trump, ever since he came to power 6 months ago, he tried his level best to bring some kind of sense to the Israeli government in case of Gaza, but he failed. And I feel over here that although Iran has shown a very big heart, Iran has been attacked, Iran, there are more than 400 people killed over there, but even then they listened to the international community, they agreed to the ceasefire. Of course, this ceasefire was also a strange ceasefire in which Donald Trump wanted Iran to stop attacking Israel 12 hours before and gave full 12 hours to Israel to attack Iran. This was a very strange, one of its kind. I think this will go down in the history. It's one of the very strange ceasefires. But even then, Iran agreed. Iran honored the call from the Qatari the Prime Minister, and also all the other countries around the world. But now these new waves of attack, I feel that Israelis are not going to listen to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will feel embarrassed not only in front of Iran and the other international community, but Israel is going to let him down.
All right, Israel is going to let Donald Trump down, but how long will Iran also comply if Israel continues to let Trump down? I'd like to ask also Ambassador Saeed Khalid Saab. Ambassador Saeed Khalid Saab, when you look at the casualties when it comes to the Iranians and when it comes to around 610 Iranians that have been killed, 4,746 wounded as a result of these 12 days of Israeli strikes. These are the latest figures by the Iranian Ministry of Health. 971 people, it says, remain hospitalized, 687 underwent surgery, 13 children are among those killed. The youngest is a 2-month-old, 49 women have also been killed, including 2 who were pregnant. 5 healthcare workers have been killed. I'm trying to give the facts and figures. 7 hospitals have been damaged, 6 emergency response bases, 4 clinics, 9 ambulances. Will the ceasefire end this spate of violence? Is it going to be a lull, just like it has happened in the past with Gaza? How do you predict the future war scenario, as the US has been now more or less directly involved in a war, and what can be the solution? What would you propose?
If I if I may ask, are you asking about Gaza?
I am referring to Gaza and coming to Iran. I mean, giving the example of Gaza.
I see. Well, I sincerely feel and wish that what has happened in Iran against Iran and what Iran showed in self-defense, this should bring this war to a pause.
All right.
If not a halt, if not a complete end, but to a pause, because the parties had certain plans. Iran had made its defensive plans, others had made plans to attack, and those plans have been implemented. So I don't see any reason, any sense in continuing now. There may be violations here and there, and why I'm saying this, because if there is peace between Iran and Israel, the world will then focus on Gaza.
And that is what Israel does not want.
Exactly. I see a problem between Netanyahu and President Trump, because as we heard, President Trump has been suggesting to him to go slow, to calm down, which has not been heard so far, which has not been accepted. But really, I think the pressure of the international community, the people, the voices, all over, and with further, I think with further pressure from the United States, from the President of the United States, there has to be some, they have to relent in Gaza. It's very important. It is crucial.
All right, it is crucial, but despite the importance of the fact that there needs to be a lull, there needs to be a ceasefire or a pause or a stoppage, whatever is can happen, whatever option is more convenient to all parties concerned, but there needs to be some kind of an end to the current spate of war or conflict that has been going on. Khalid Ahmad Akram Saab, how do you view the global reactions that have been calling for de-escalation? Many have called for that de-escalation, and many are happy with this truce. France is happy, Germany is happy. A lot of people want Iran to go back to the negotiating table and to go back to nuclear talks as well, as far as the JCPOA or any future of JCPOA is concerned. How much of an impact is the reaction or the call for de-escalation by different countries across the world will have on the actual conflict and the parties involved?
Yes, as we know that the two parties, Iran and Israel, they both have been attacking each other since last 12 days. But again, I would appreciate the leadership of Iran. I would appreciate the people of Iran that despite of the fact that they are the victims, despite of the fact that in their case the aggressor is Israel, despite of the fact that even US attacked them, there is a sense in the leadership of Iranian government, and also they have listened to the international community. I think now this is the time that international community, especially the Middle Eastern countries who have a lot of influence on President Trump. It's not only that Israel has influence on President Trump, but I feel that the Middle Eastern countries also have a lot of influence on President Trump, and President Trump's slogan of trade is getting affected by these wars. And I think this is the time that the international community, including the United Nations, should basically pressurize President Trump and United States to now play their part, because all the promises are not made by the international community. International community had been supporting Iran, but all the promises of ceasefire, giving the deadlines, telling both the countries to sit on the negotiating table, President Trump has been doing single-handedly. President Trump has not involved China, President Trump has not involved Russia, President Trump has not involved his NATO allies, because there used to be a time that America would never move out for any kind of negotiations or anything without NATO. But in this complete case, we are seeing that President Trump has bypassed all the diplomatic protocols, he has bypassed all the allies, and he has been single-handedly handling these crises. So the onus comes on President Trump, and I think this is high time. Iran has listened to him despite of the fact that America attacked Iran. So now President Trump must put his foot down and tell Israel that they must stop. These tweets will not make any difference. These media the media interaction will not make any difference. President Trump really has to call Israeli Prime Minister. He has to tell him to come to Washington, sit with him. He must call the Iranian leadership to Washington. If he wants to handle everything single-handedly, I think the world would welcome it. But then he has to come out of these media talks and do something concrete.
All right. So action talk louder than words, and this is what is needed under this very atmosphere of conflict that has engulfed the Middle East, Iran, Israel, and of course Palestine as well. We'll be back after a short break to discuss more. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and we're discussing the conflict, 12-day conflict that has supposedly come to an end between Iran and Israel, and that has been confirmed by none other than US President Donald Trump, because he's been the mediator as far as this conflict is also concerned. Almas, first of all, French President Emmanuel Macron says there is an increased risk that Iran will attempt to enrich uranium secretly following US and Israeli strikes on its nuclear sites. What's your take on that? Do you feel there is that possibility present, because other countries have also shown that concern?
So look, as far as the concerns of the Western capitals, of course we can read their concerns repeatedly, and on such kind of assumption, based on such kind of ideas, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has launched a preemptive strikes on Iran. This is the basic assumption that Iran is secretly developing its nuclear program. But if we look at the international or independent analyst or the bodies, they denied the fact.
But you know, Tulsi Gabbard in March this year had said that there was no intention, and she had confirmed that. But the fact is, as a reaction to what has happened, do you feel there could be that possibility, or Iran is also has made it clear that its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes only and will remain for peaceful purposes?
So look, Iranian statements are on the record, and the leadership repeatedly asserting that they are not developing the nuclear weapons, and you know, the decree of Ayatollah Khamenei is obviously very clear. They're not developing, but you know, being a realist, in my understanding, because I am representing a school of thought here. For the stability in the Middle East, Iran should have a nuclear bomb.
Because you know, you see there are two nuclear armed countries that have bombed Iran, and which is not a nuclear armed country. Yes. Last question to you concerns Yasser Golan, who is the leader of the center-left Democratic Party in Israel, urges the Israeli government to follow the ceasefire and to agree to a truce. And he says, and I quote, "Now is the time to complete the mission, return all the hostages, end the war in Gaza, and stop once and for all the coup that threatens to make Israel weak, divided and vulnerable." Opposition leader Yair Lapid also makes a similar appeal. He said, "And now Gaza, it's time to finish there too." This has been quoted by the Times of Israel. Return the hostages, and the war. Israel needs to start rebuilding. Is there a possibility that this ceasefire with Iran could be followed by a ceasefire in Gaza?
Yes, this is a bit complicated. Yes, there are voices inside the Israel, but it's difficult to achieve. I'm not looking for any near future, because though things are so complicated, as you know, still Israeli regime, despite the massive destruction in the Gaza, they couldn't return back their hostages hosted by the Hamas. So as far as the Iran is concerned, in my understanding, Netanyahu had a gamble in Middle East, and that gamble was based on the over confidence, misunderstanding, and miscalculation.
All right.
And you know, the declaratory objective of the Prime Minister Netanyahu was the first of all, if we can see that eliminate Iranian nuclear infrastructure. The second one was the weakening Irani military, or we can say the surrender, and the third, regime change. None of the objectives so far has been achieved by the Israeli regime.
All right.
So this is obviously, this is a clear, I am looking forward the clear balance of power in future.
All right.
And in this conflict, Israeli defeat is written on the wall.
All right, but will that have any consequence on what is happening in Palestine? Will there be a ceasefire of some sort in Palestine as well? This is also my main question.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yes, international community will try to enforce and push to the Israeli administration, but I'm not
All right.
so optimistic.
All right, not so optimistic. Let's see how the coming days and of course weeks bode as far as Iran, Israel is concerned. But when it comes to Israel, there's a very similitude between what Israel is doing and what has also been perpetrating. And post the Pahalgam false flag operation, what we've seen is that India has tried all the different measures to destabilize Pakistan, but it did not happen. It tried to attack Pakistan, and when Pakistan responded, it asked for a ceasefire from the US. But one of the things that it had announced way earlier after the false flag operation was that it was putting in abeyance the Indus Water Treaty, using water as a means to terrorize, using water as a tool for terrorism. Water terrorism is the exact term that we use here. And now Pakistan is not the only casualty. This is also moving forward to Bangladesh. You know, after suspending this Indus Water Treaty or putting it in abeyance with Pakistan, India has now decided to reconsider the Ganges Water Treaty with Bangladesh. The 1996 India-Bangladesh Ganges Treaty is set to expire in 2026 after completing 30 years, and you know, India has informed Bangladesh it now requires more water for its development needs according to Indian sources. So this water terrorism is not being only used for Pakistan but now also for Bangladesh, of course. To discuss the water terrorism, of course, we continue to be joined by all three guests. We'll begin with Ambassador Saeed Khalid Saab. How does India's decision to suspend the Indus Water Treaty violate international law and set a dangerous precedent when it comes to global treaty diplomacy?
India has been behaving as a bully in the region. Its main objective is to become the hegemon, to control the region, so that everybody salutes India, everybody falls in line, everybody does what India wants, what India demands. It's a huge challenge for the smaller neighbors. Pakistan, being the bigger neighbor of the region, has to stand up to India. Others have to stand up to India. But realpolitik needs that it requires that they are supported by important members of the international community, and that is one way that we can approach it. International mechanisms is another way we can approach it, by invoking international mechanisms. And recently people have referred to the Security Council being convened on this issue, on the issue of violating the treaty. That is another avenue. So there are avenues. Whether India will listen, whether the international community can find answers, whether it can exert pressure. I would not like to go into making any predictions how this is going to evolve. It's a dire situation, because this is, as Pakistan has said, it's a question of our survival.
I agree with you on
And
that.
now the one element which has been which has figured in these debates is that it will take India at least 10 years maybe 20 years, to alter the course of rivers, to build new facilities, to use that water, to divert it toward their own, dams and so on. So we have time, but is that enough for us to prepare? Can we do any make alternate arrangements? Can we plan other things? Can we plan for the worst scenario, which has been mentioned as an act of war?
This is what India wants. It wants the worst case scenario to be implemented at the earliest. We'll come to the Amit Shah statement, but before that I'd like to understand, Khalid Saab, should the United Nations take stronger action after one of its own principles that concerns shared natural resources under mutually agreed treaties is being seen blatantly being disregarded by India?
Yes, as you know that all the countries who are part of United Nations, who have signed the United Nations Charter, diplomatically and morally they are bound to follow this whatever they had signed. But we have been seeing that since last couple of years India had not been abiding by that. So I think now this is high time that United Nations should invoke its whatever policies they have, and they should hold India accountable for that. Secondly, the most important part is this, that India has now become very isolated in the region, especially in the South Asia, Central Asia, and in the Asian region. India is isolated. They are not good with China, they are not good with Bangladesh, they are even not good with Bhutan. So, and now the India is taking out its frustration by these tactics. Sometimes
India is taking out its frustration by these tactics. We'll come back to you, Khalid Saab, but we have to go to a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and we are discussing India's water terrorism. Albas, I'd like to understand, on Saturday, Indian Home Minister Amit Shah, while responding to the Times of India, says India will take water that was flowing towards Pakistan to Rajasthan by constructing a canal. He says, and I quote, "No, the treaty will never be restored." What are the implications of this statement?
I think this is a reiteration of their stance, because they held the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance, and this is the continuation of that stance. It means perhaps there are some forces trying to have dialogue between the two countries. So we should take this as a signal that they reiterating their stance. So obviously it will be implicating Pakistan position. Pakistan is as clear on this that any sort of diversion of or stoppage of the water will be a declaration of war. So this is a clear position by the Pakistan, and it will have serious implications. Pakistan will respond if anything happens, such like things, with force, and there will be another war, as Bilawal Bhutto, former Pakistani foreign minister, said that Pakistan will be forced to another war.
I mean, this could be the implication. I hope it doesn't come to that. Ambassador Saeed Khalid Saab, what role has the UN traditionally played, in your point of view, in water dispute mitigation, and what should be or what has been its current response? We've seen Stefan Dujarric, who said, responding to Amit Shah, that he hasn't seen that statement, but of course it is critical that natural resources be shared based on mutually accepted treaties. But what should be the UN's response, in your point of view?
I think it's a tremendous challenge to the international system, to the UN system, that if solemn treaties, solemnly agreed upon, and in this particular case with the help of the World Bank, and the World Bank became one of the co-signatories in the Indus Waters Treaty, that one country wants to put it in abeyance, wants to undo it, doesn't want to respect it anymore. Umar, I see this as a very big act of defiance, and it's time for the international
community. But they are emulating the Israeli model, to be very frank.
To put their heads together, because otherwise there won't be any international system.
But that is what a lot of people fear with what Israel has been doing and what Iran has been able to do.
Because you saw what happened to the League of Nations, the same can happen to the United Nations.
Agreed. Khalid Sahab, the threat to divert Pakistani water to Rajasthan, should it be seen as a part of a larger Indian strategy of environmental and agricultural warfare? If so, how should Pakistan respond in the long term and in the short term?
In the short term, I think that Pakistan must sit with all the regional countries, because this problem of water is not going to affect Pakistan, but it's also going to affect India. Tomorrow it can affect China also. So the regional countries should sit together. And I've been saying this thing in the past also, that on climate change and water, we should have a regional mechanism. Unfortunately, we do not have any regional mechanism, and we either have to go to the COP, or we have to go to the United Nations to raise our voice. So if we have a regional mechanism in which the countries of South Asia, Central Asia, they are together, and then they can exert pressure on one of those countries which are not abiding by the treaties. So for the short term measure, and regional mechanism is must, and for long term measure, Pakistan must go to UN. Pakistan must raise a voice in the UN Security Council, and even I would go to this extent that we should go to International Court of Justice, because if one of the countries is not abiding by the UN resolutions, or they are not abiding by the charter which they had signed, so this is high time, and the UN Secretary General can suspend the membership of India in UN because they are not abiding by the charter which they had signed.
All right. Almas, quick answer. This growing nexus that we also see between the Hindutva India and Zionist Israel, of course, we see how it is threatening global peace, global stability, not only in our region but in the Middle East as well. What needs to be done collectively, if I were to ask you in a couple of phrases, by the countries that matter, in order to put a dent and in order to put some sense into these two?
I think if you are asking what Pakistani response should be, I think Pakistan should expose this nexus to the global community. So this is the quick and crisp answer. Pakistan should have to take this matter to the UN. Pakistan is a member of the Security Council as this movement, and Pakistan should have to expose this nexus at the OIC platform, SCO, and other international platforms. And the second, Pakistan can develop a counter-intelligence mechanism with the like-minded countries, especially at the OIC and then the regional countries. So this kind of responses that can undermine or expose the nexus and then their activities in the region.
All right. Coming to also another friendly country of ours, Bangladesh, Ambassador Saab, the 1996 India-Bangladesh Ganges Treaty that is set to expire in 2026 is going to be revised by India. It has said that it wants more water for its needs, and that is why it is going to revise. Is it using the same model or replicating its methodology of water terrorism towards Pakistan to Bangladesh as well, because of the way Bangladesh is no longer an Indian ally?
I don't know, because this is a technical point. I don't know what India has said about the Indus Waters Treaty, whether that is exactly the same what is being said or being reported.
Just for information, the treaty was meant to ensure fair distribution of water during dry season, especially around the Farrakha barrage. But clause 12 of the Ganges Treaty states that its renewal will depend on mutual consent between the two countries. Now, India informs Bangladesh that it now requires more water for its development needs, and so it will, do the needful. And Bangladesh is not going to get the water as it used to.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't India suggesting renegotiation?
Yes, it is, but to go renegotiation on the basis of the fact that it wants more water and does not want Bangladesh to get the same water it used to.
So I think technically there is a difference, because in the case of Pakistan, India has taken a unilateral action, whereas in the case of India, we are hearing of renegotiation. So I see a technical difference there.
All right, because it needs mutual consent. What if Bangladesh does not agree to it? Will India do the same as it has done? And this is what I'm going to ask Khalid Saab. India's suspension of the Indus Water Treaty and the reconsideration of the Ganges Treaty, do both these things coming at more or less the same time reflect a dangerous pattern of regional water terrorism, not just Pakistan-India water?
Yes, I've already said this thing that India will use, and India has started using water for its regional terrorism. Yes, it comes under the definition of regional terrorism, and of course now this is high time that the regional countries, as I've already said, they should sit together. Also, Bangladesh should also go to the UN. Bangladesh should also, if the 30 years are expiring, there is a clause that they have to sit together and renegotiate. But before the renegotiation starts, which are going to happen in 2026, India has already given a feeler to Bangladesh that they are not going to sign it again. So it
or
means,
not sign it on the same terms.
Not on the same terms. So it means that India is now trying to pressurize Bangladesh because the elections are going to be held in Bangladesh,
Yes.
and India will use this water card to
Influence.
the elections in Bangladesh. So India is trying to play some kind of bigger picture
All right.
to have the foothold again in Bangladesh.
Or last question, very quick answer because we're short of time. India's shift from cooperation to unilateralism, does it signal the rise of a Hindutva-driven, hyper-nationalist water policy?
Yes, of course, whatever the Indian administration and the Prime Minister Modi is doing, that is Hindutva driven. And the political motivation of this idea is to establish its hegemony, and that undermines international law and promote the unilateral actions.
All right. This is a hegemonic design by India to promote a unilateral rise of a country that itself is riddled with numerous problems. But the fact remains that it is doing what it is doing, like Israel is doing what it is doing, and it is high time that important countries in the world do the needful to stop both Israel and India. With that, we come to an end. Saeed Khalid Saab, Khalid Taimur Akram Saab, Saeed Almas Haider Naqvi Saab, thank you to all three of my guests. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news stories segments that pertain to us, you in Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.